Hello dear students, my name is 𝐄-𝐊𝐿𝐻𝐿𝐻 and I am your EVS teacher for class 4th, and we were learning your chapter 4 which is named sports competition, and today we will start part 4 of this chapter which is the last part of this chapter. So in this chapter we came to know about Neelam's school where sports competition was going to be held and it has started. We talked about sportsman spirit, we talked about the game of kabaddi. So let's continue this chapter. So here we will talk about learning by playing. So Neelam and Arif went to the room of the injured kabaddi player. So we have seen it in the last part that one of the player was injured in that game, and we also talked about the cultural program in last, and now we are talking about Neelam and Arif who went to the room of the injured kabaddi player. Everyone's bedding is closely lined up in the room. So when they went there, what they saw that everyone's bedding closely lined up in the room. So there were many players and all of them were living together, so their beds were closely lined up. A pot filled with water is kept, over which a water drawing container with handle is placed, and everyone's eating utensils are kept together. So this was the situation there. Neelam and Arif observed it that everything was properly managed there, that all the bedding were closely lined up. Besides this, there was a pot filled with water, and over that pot a water drawing container was placed, and that container was having a handle for using it in a proper manner, and everyone's eating utensils were also kept there. तो बच्चों, जब नीलम और आरिफ उस खिलाड़ी के जो बच्चा था चोटिल हो गया था उसके रूम में गए, तो उसने देखा कि सभी जो खिलाड़ी थे, सभी प्लेयर्स थे, उनके सबके बैट्स लगे हुए थे लाइन से। और क्या देखा उन्होंने वहाँ पर, ये देखा कि वहाँ पीने का पानी रखा था, पानी निकालने का वहाँ पर एक पात्र भी रखा था, और सभी बच्चों के जो भी खिलाड़ी थे उन सभी बच्चों के खाना खाने के बर्तन भी एक साथ ही रखे हुए थे. So they observed all these things, and then Arif asked, who cooks food? So Arif was curious to know that who cooks food here. The injured player said, all of us cook it jointly. So he replied that all of us cook it jointly, we cook it together. Arif liked it very much. So Arif liked it very much that all of these are living together and all of them cook food jointly. The injured player also said, we players together with our teacher clean the room, cook food, fetch water, serve food, organize all the things, etc. without any sense of discrimination. So students, this was the important thing, that besides playing they were doing all these things together, so they were learning lot of things together. So the injured player told Arif, he said to Arif that we with our teacher clean our room, we cook our food, besides this we fetch water, we serve food together, and we organize all the things here, and there was no sense of discrimination. There was no sense of discrimination among the players और स्टूडेंट्स. तो बच्चों, यहाँ आपने देखा कि आरिफ को ये बहुत अच्छा लगा, और जब उस चोटिल खिलाड़ी ने बताया कि हम सभी हमारे टीचर के साथ मिलकर एक साथ खाना पकाते हैं, एक साथ उसको खाते हैं, सफाई एक साथ मिलकर करते हैं, सारी चीज़ों को व्यवस्थित रखते हैं, तो आरिफ को ये सब जानकर बहुत ही मज़ा आया, उसे बहुत ही अच्छा लगा. सो लेट्स मूव अहेड. Before going to a sports competition, so there is a question for you now. Before going to a sports competition, what all things will you carry with you? So dear students, you have to assume this situation that you are going to a sports competition, and before going to that competition, what all things you carry with you? You have to answer this in two parts. So first is those which will be only of your use. So there will be some things which will be for your personal use, so you have to name those things in your notebook. And the second part of the question is the things which can be used by everyone. So will you keep some things which can be used by everyone or not? So if you keep such things which will be or which can be used by everyone, what those things will be? So you have to answer the question in your notebook and you have to show this answer to your teacher and parents. So here what we learnt in this chapter, let's see. First thing we learned that games and sports are necessary for good health. So dear students, different games and sports you play are really good for your good health. Every game has its own rules. So as here we have seen the rules of Kabaddi, different games have their own rules. Preparations are required for organizing games and sports. For this, planning is required to be done. So here in the starting of chapter, we have seen that headmaster called a meeting and he allotted different duties to all the teachers. So that is being mentioned here. If any kind of game is to be organized, proper planning is required to be there. Then we remain healthy by playing games. So this is important, you know this thing, that when we play games we remain healthy. Then through games and sports, qualities like cooperation, leadership, brotherhood, etc. are developed. So through games different qualities are developed and some of these qualities are cooperation, leadership एंड ब्रदरहुड. तो बच्चों इस पूरे चैप्टर में जो स्पोर्ट्स के बारे में था आपने बहुत सारी चीज़ें सीखी हैं. स्पोर्ट्स आपके स्वास्थ्य के लिए बहुत अच्छे होते हैं. अलग अलग खेल खासकर जो मैदान में खेले जाते हैं वो आपके शारीरिक मानसिक स्वास्थ्य को, आपके सामाजिक विकास को बहुत ही फ़ायदा पहुंचाते हैं. उसके अलावा हर गेम के अपने अपने नियम होते हैं, अपने रूल्स होते हैं. हमने ये भी जाना कि कोई भी गेम को ऑर्गेनाइज कराने के लिए बहुत सारी व्यवस्था, बहुत सारी प्लानिंग चाहिए होती है. उसके अलावा हमने देखा कि गेम्स खेलते रहने से हम स्वस्थ बने रहते हैं और अलग अलग खेल खेलने से आप में अलग अलग गुण बढ़ते हैं, उनका विकास होता है. जैसे आप साथियों का साथ देना सीखते हैं, आप लीडरशिप सीखते हैं, नेतृत्व करना सीखते हैं और आप भाईचारा निभाना अच्छे से सीख पाते. सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स वी लर्न फ्रॉम दिस चैप्टर. इजंट इट a very good chapter? I hope that you like this chapter. Now there are some questions related to this chapter which we are going to cover here with this part only. So question number 1 here is, while preparing for the sports competition, what all preparations were made together by the teacher and the children? So this question is given with your chapter. So you have to answer this question, that while preparing for the sports competition, what all preparation were made together by the teacher and the children. So in starting of chapter we have seen that the teacher was given the duty of organizing the ground and the teacher and students collected all the required materials like chalk, first aid kit, tables, chairs, result chart, form and file of players. This is our sitting stools for spectators, whistles, etc. They also made arrangements for drinking water. So we have already seen all this, that they arranged a lot of things. They arranged chalk, first aid kit, tables, chairs, stools for spectators, form and file of all the players, then result chart and drinking water arrangements were also made by the teacher and the students. So this is all for this chapter, students. I hope you like this chapter and we will start next chapter in our next class. Thank you for watching.